Hello, everybody. I'm gonna have to put a soft rating of TV4. I give up.
Just fucking kidding.
It's funny, but at this point, I've lost the taste of humor I had going into this video, replaced by a strong, sour disgust. The more I learn about Max, the less charitability I'm able to give him, and the less authentic my lighthearted jabs become. I was planning to make this TV-14 for the sake of pixelized gore, but this is 100,000,000% rated R. Max curses a ton and is very graphic.
You know what I'm saying?
First, this video isn't just to say Max was cringe. I'm anticipating being minimalized to that, so let me clear the air. The purpose of this video is to assert Max has behaviors that he continues to demonstrate through his career. We see the origins, and we begin to understand how things became the way they did. This is the first of 3 videos on Max, documenting things somewhat chronologically, and as unbiasedly as I can. Part 2 will be about many of Max's more famous videos, and will end with Pick a Side YouTube. Part 3 will cover the allegations more in depth and his response to them, along with other creators' responses, and wrap up the analysis of the channel. I didn't think Andrew Tate, Alex Jones, Mumkey, Leafy, and countless others deserved their bans. Sure, Austin Jones, Lionmaker, and EDP, but those are different. Max, without making any firm assertions on specifics,
Shit on my dick and spin on a cylinder made a fist fit for a feisty man named Max who shoves letter openers into his eyes, goddamn.
has something seriously wrong with him. The way that he uses his platform is immensely disturbing and irresponsible, and I argue harmful. I hate cancel culture. I hate the idea of shutting people down because of tenuous, silly reasons or because of what people say. But there are some cases in which people's advice or words are directly harming others. I'm not talking about Twitter threats and anon messages to your places of work. I've literally never thought about a creator like this before, and I've gone to the depths of many strange people. Max is just... I don't understand how he was able to fit in for so long. Doing this rabbit hole has genuinely hurt me, because it feels too much like something anyone could have seen coming, had they taken the time to look at available evidence. I mean that in terms of the creators around him and his audience, not his victims. Viewer discretion is advised. Mama Max, aka Max Harris, started his channel back in 2016 with some very incel core content. Max would overwhelmingly win incel bingo, be it him airing out his personal romantic frustrations onto his public YouTube channel, to his general edgy, gore-filled, dark, creepypasta emo boy personality. Now, before we really get into this, I think we need to make one thing really clear. I actually used to be subbed to Max, probably around 2019, up until 2020, and I saw a few of his Life Sucks videos back in 2016-17. At the time, I'm not ashamed to say that I thought of him as this rogue anti-hero figure. That's because of his main channel content, what he currently dedicates his channel to: hunting. Shockingly enough, Max claims to be a savior of children, someone who avenges those who have experienced abuse. Max makes content with the same end goal of Dateline's To Catch a Predator, the main difference being TCAP ends with an arrest, whereas most of Max's videos end with doxing and quote-unquote satirical threats of graphic violence towards allegedly confirmed child predators. An interesting note, but even Chris Hansen failed at actually making positive change in an online investigation with Onision. All that's to say, it's far more difficult when it's not a network syndicated show working closely with law enforcement. Max even made his own word for side, coming from K-to-Ray, to kill. He calls it monstercide, but who goes into the category of monster really varies. All the while using Hotline Miami, a top-down retro-style shooter and one of my favorite games, as the vehicle for his idolization of violence. After everything I've learned, I genuinely feel that Max has hurt far more people than he's saved. He says he reports to the authorities, but
We all know the cops and judges aren't gonna do shit.
which makes sense to a certain degree. So he took the law into his own hands. That's all well and good when there's well-documented child or animal abuse, and most of Max's videos highlight people who have committed egregious acts. So, that's great, right? I mean, Max, a strange, pushy, antisocial loner, having the platform to sit hundreds of thousands of loyal subscribers onto abusers. Fine, maybe a tad shaky on paper, but wait. What would happen if Max wasn't always telling the truth about those he accused? In fact, what if I told you that one of Max's longest videos as of recently, Believe All Abusers, accused 5 women of serious abuse with no proof at all beyond vague statements? Further, he accused one of these women's boyfriends of being a child predator based on statements alleged from Max's sister's best friend at their high school. You cannot make up how bad this is. I'm leaving out an important detail on purpose. All of these women are Max's exes. As I said before, he talks about them personally on some of his now deleted videos. But after Magnetar's video, showcasing Lucy, Olivia, and Haley's testimonies, he once again directly talked about them, this time to defame their character and cherry-pick segments of their videos and his later talks with them. I don't care to critique the women's testimonies, as this is a series about Max, although they are a very important piece to the puzzle. It can be confirmed that Max was at the very least neglectful.
Max was being used. She was being neglected.
Emotionally abusive,
Max was getting angry. She was getting depressed.
and exhibited obsessive psychotic tendencies.
Attempting to commit suicide.
She died on me, and I loved her. Grief.
I'm not saying can be confirmed to mean that anything the women say is a lie. It's just to say there are concrete pieces of proof to all of those allegations. I don't want to invalidate any of the women's trauma, so I'll just link their video for anyone interested. Please, seriously, do not harass any of these people, including Max. I don't want Max to be able to say people who watch this video harassed him. More importantly though, please don't bother the people who release these allegations. Even if you don't believe them, please treat them with the respect you'd want to be treated with, especially given the fact that a lot of them aren't internet personalities with high sub YouTube channels. If you have more than 50 brain cells and aren't terminally online, you'd be really surprised how little research people are willing to do before they insert their opinion. I think this is fine to do when you're talking about your usual CSGO surfing topics, but when you're talking about allegations of sexual assault, that is not okay. It is never okay to conjecture on the validity of such claims solely based on a small video you have. It disgusts me. And yes, I am talking to you, the franchise. I'm saving the real call out for all of these channels. If you want a video more focused on Mama Max's allegations and reviewing them from the lens of a commentary channel,
and you can suck my dick!
I'll link a few other relevant videos in the description. This is still breaking news, and more comes out every few days, with larger channels like Tommy C and Edwin's Generation planning videos. So, why am I bringing up the allegations? Clicks and views? No. Because they're some of the bigger dominoes in a gigantic, immaculate, fragile ecosystem of thousands of dominoes in Max's life and public career. Simply put, it's purely logical to be concerned when you learn the man who seems to idolize violence has consistent patterns of problems with exes and has a channel dedicated to reporting child predators, made several overt allegations of child abuse based on hearsay at best, and even less. It wouldn't seem illogical to look back at this man's content and not necessarily doubt the validity of every accusation, but I mean, can we trust everything he says? At the very least, it paints a very different light on what this channel is to Max. I've already explained his proof for the Magnetar allegations, but Vito's is even worse. Vito made a clearly satirical joke response to one of Max's tweets, saying,
Who are you choosing, YouTube? Pedos or children?
Vito's response was, I choose pedos. A very dark joke, but it goes to show the absurdity in Max's hyperbolic call to action. Max took this to mean that Vito is in fact a pedophile and calls him as much in his latest video. Both of these to me seem to be weaponized CSA allegations due to personal grudges. For Magnetar, it's obvious. The man released a 1-hour video featuring 3 women who extensively talk about their negative experiences with Max. But Vito just nails the coffin closed. The fact that this man can so flagrantly refer to Vito as a pedophile, all because of a negative response he had to his tweet? Now that's scary. Do you think what he's doing is making the world a better place? He certainly does, and constantly says as much. But does he really? Or is that just Max trying to justify what he already knows deep down?
Do you like hurting other people? Yes.
Max started his channel in 2016 and earned a following with his Life Sucks series. These videos were intended to critique the frustrating things in life from the relatable viewpoint of a disgruntled young man. I watched every available Life Sucks videos in full for this. Some outside series, some second channel videos. I mean, like, it's excessive. There are so many, and I wasn't even able to find all of them. I'm gonna link the playlist I made along with all the episodes. I'm going insane. Max started the channel ranting about topics he didn't care for, such as school, complainers, and bossy people. We know he used to be in the army, but he isn't anymore.
Laying on the bathroom floor, despondent of life, since I was restricted to only doing what I was ordered to do and nothing else, just like everyone else there.
We know he had a girlfriend, Lucy.
Now, as I'm recording this, I got my first girlfriend yesterday. My first girlfriend ever. She's beautiful, she's amazing. I'm sorry for being gay. She's a faggot, she sucks, and I hate her. No, you'll probably know her. Her name is Twigs. But yeah, she's the best. Anyways, Lulu.
How about his personal life outside of that? Rather than talking about it myself, I'll let Max do it. From the beginning, Max hated his family.
Some would describe it as the most important thing in life. Others would describe it as the reason for why they hate living. And the latter was my definition. As a child, I'd hear the screams of my mother and father through the paper-thin walls while I was just simply playing my Super Nintendo. You're supposed to protect us, and yet you send us to a place where others will insult, ostracize, push down, and harm us. You send us to a place that every day I'd fantasize for a school shooter to take me away.
Damn. Certainly don't show this to anyone who's survived a school shooting. I'll let you all decide whether that was justified.
Me, I was a straight A student. I'm not trying to brag, I'm just explaining my particular angle on the matter. I was the one doing your homework. I was the one working on a project. I was the one who sat with the weird, cringy kids. I was the one who wore the same black sweatshirt every day. I was the one hunched over with the exceedingly large backpack. And I was the one who wanted to kill myself almost all the time. Pete, I've severely ignorant and ungodly shallow peers who forget who I am when I was the one who gave them a fucking pencil they never returned. Repeat, I have uninterested crushes who for some reason can't see me and seem to never hear when I say something to them. Anytime they do hear me, I fuck it up by being a socially autistic moron. Repeat, I have slipshod teachers who ferociously brutalize anyone who asks to go to the bathroom and refuses to answer questions with the phrase, "You should have been listening."
Max was generally unsatisfied with most components of his education, be it the mediocre teachers, women who paid his existence no mind, or Chads who beat the hell out of him for being weird.
Josh walked past me and slid his arm around my neck. I coughed out, "Why?" He said, "You don't deserve to be alive." He tightened his grip, and it hurt a lot. The two friends with him chuckled and mocked me, but it was mostly inaudible due to the lack of blood in my head. We liked the same video games and movies. I think they'd like me if they got to know me. What did I do to deserve this?
You're cringe.
I think that assholes like Josh Murphy, Sarah Bailey, Garrett Cooper, Jessica Richardson, Marcel McCarthy, and others get to be the goddamn popular kids in school when they have the most shallow personalities and hollow dispositions, while I'm here at my desk, doing what I'm supposed to do, and yet getting nastily insulted by them because of how I look and what I do.
I have no idea who any of these people are. I looked into them and I couldn't find anyone, but if they are real, they won't be the first people from Max's real life he brings into his videos. Even in those early days, you're also beginning to see the breeding ground for incel manifestos within Max's content.
No.
Why does this look like Tweet Craig Yowie? Why was this the image that came up in correlation to funny?
My brother used to hit me really hard. I'd do something that annoyed him. He assiduously slammed my back with his knuckles, and because he has Asperger's, he couldn't control himself, so he repeatedly beat me down with every fiber of strength. And after 10 minutes of a 4-year-old howling for his life, my eldest sister finally came in and took me out. Never was he punished for hitting me, since my parents were too busy shoveling insults and cuss words at each other. In turn, he never knew discipline, and always used to hit me, and I am now remembering how much it used to hurt. And realistically speaking, it's probably why I have scoliosis now.
Meanwhile, his psychologically brutal extended family told him to get a job, and that he looked physically unattractive and puny.
I think they know everything.
You don't have trouble falling asleep. You have trouble being obedient and shit like that. Fuck you, Dad. Even when I was a goddamn teenager, he still treated me like some human, dismissing the things I say as if I'm only staying up to annoy him. No, dumbass.
He despises his dad and seems to put a lot of the blame for his parents fighting onto him.
Oh, earlier today, my dad was like fucking, he walked up to the bathroom while my brother was in there. He was like, "Hurry up!" So my brother, he was in the middle of the shower too, so my brother, he's just like, what? He's like, "Get out of the bathroom." My brother was like, "Oh, okay." And my dad didn't even fucking use the bathroom. He always fucking makes us get out of the bathroom for no goddamn reason. And we are never allowed to interrupt him while he's in the bathroom. Yeah, he is always just fucking banging on that. He's probably in the bathroom right now, like, speaking about it while he's in there. But yeah, my dad fucking sucks. He's a piece of shit.
He was able to unite with his brother in their adult years over hating Papa Max. And luckily, he also had his parasocial relationship with his audience to cheer him up.
But I have not forgotten. I have all of you here with me.
Unfortunately, even if Max wanted to get a job to help support his mother, he was refused work from even McDonald's.
I'm not gonna get a job. All the goddamn openings are at McDonald's, which, by the way, I fucking applied before and they didn't even hire me.
But Max is certainly not shy from talking about his dark past. In the face of all of these negative factors, he says,
If it were not for the past that I was forced to live through, I would not be how I am, where I am, what I am, or who I am. And I feel like vomiting by even entertaining the thought that I could be anyone or anything else than the person that I am today, because I could not be more thankful, more happy for what I have.
Plus, when it came to all of his stresses, worries, bullies, and people trying to keep him down, Max could always just
Take it out on the Russians in Hotline Miami.
So with Max's origins out of the way, let's get into the content itself. According to the now defunct gossip platform Kiwi Farms, Max had another channel before this one that seemed to be dedicated to commentary, but there aren't any archives of it up. However, there are a few archive videos in similar style, such as the one I'm showing you now. What do you think this video is about?
Hello. Is this okay? Is this okay if I do this? Because all my other videos aren't okay, apparently. But this is okay, right? Everybody?
Guess.
So recently, I made a video after the Las Vegas massacre.
The sheer dichotomy of him doing a Walmart iDubbbz impression with
After the Las Vegas massacre.
most of this video is spent actually refuting comments left on the Las Vegas video, which is sadly lost to time. It's difficult to tell given Max's demeanor, but it seems the initial Las Vegas video was fairly serious, whereas this comes off a bit insensitive, given the subject matter. Even if you want to make fun of the commenters, there should be a minimum respect given to the victims of a massacre, especially when making a video about them. Imagine this as an intro to a responding to Christchurch, Uvalde, or Sandy Hook video comments. I find it tasteless and a great introduction on how Max views victims as a vehicle to criticize people. With that blemish noticed, let's dive straight into Life Sucks. In this series, the audience received a window into Max's personal life. Let's start by looking at Max's disclaimer that stays on the screen less than 2 seconds. We have the classic, "If you get offended, this is merely fictional satire" disclaimer, along with a tiny epileptic warning at the end, giving us less than 2 seconds to process it before barraging us with flashing images.
I'm Max.
Thanks.
An investigation's underway in Japan into why more than 600 children suffered from convulsions and vomiting.
Dude, the amount of times I've heard
I'm Max.
I'm starting to have nightmares featuring it. I have no real criticism for this video's contents, so I'm not going to show them. But I found myself wishing for a simpler Max, who was only concerned about making people feel good online. He gave a lot of commonly agreed points on money and why it can be debilitating to people. And then, with his outro, I remember he's always been the same.
But yeah, I know you all understood that. I think I made myself clear. What should I talk about today? I mean, I need to make money soon. I hope I can start growing pretty quick soon, because my family is having a little bit of trouble because my dad is getting ready to leave and do some stupid ass things, and he's gonna basically leave us here with no source of income. And my mom is basically relying on me because my older brother has Asperger's, so he can't get a job, and my younger sister is only 16, so she can't really get a job. And my mom is almost at the age of retirement, so everything's basically falling on me to make money. So No, I'm not saying I want money or anything. I'm just, my mom gave it to me for the house, and I want to make something for her, you know. And plus I want to treat her nice, so maybe someday. Anyways.
Look, I really have no problem with his needs in terms of his family situation. And if he's worried about it, he could very easily have done a GoFundMe. If he wanted to be supported for the videos he's making, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that outright. And I also don't think that there's anything wrong with saying it. But when you dedicate 30% of Life Sucks money to ranting about your own financial struggle, insisting you don't want money, but consistently maintaining that you need it, feels like a manipulative move to try to raise money. Otherwise, why make it so long? Why? Why talk about it for this long? And repeatedly, I don't know. I mean, you saw it. You saw it yourself, man. At least with e-begging, they actually ask you.
Who's gonna replace Michael Jackson, though? No one, because he was born under the right circumstances in which fate decided to make him somebody worth knowing to the earth. That ain't fair, is it? If I was born in the belly of Catherine Jackson and had all the genes of Michael and existed in the same time frame under every scenario in which he did, then I'd be the one who's famous. Why did he get to be the one?
This is a very ironic example given Jackson's, let's just say colorful, history of abuse at the hands of his father. He was chemically castrated and sexually tortured frequently by the man who conceived him. Although some might wish for the fame that came with his talent in life, Michael went through a great deal and probably did not wish his torture on anyone else. And then Max does probably the worst thing I've seen him do throughout my entire sordid journey. He collaborates with a British person.
Everybody loves talented people. You can't go wrong with a good bit of talent.
Here's politics.
We have the Nazis, fascists, racists, conservatives, Republicans, Christians, and nationalists. And in the left corner, we have the communists, anarchists, socialists, Democrats, and progressives.
And in the center, we have centrists and moderates.
What if instead of that, I'd said, in the left corner we have Pol Pot, Antifa, and the Clintons. And in the right corner, we have Christians, Republicans, and anarcho-primitivists. I don't have any desire to directly critique Max's points. I just think it's a good way to point out his bias creeping in so we can be on the lookout for it in later videos. Look, do y'all remember early high school? Maybe freshman year, when we had to write poetry and share it with the class, and when the edgy kid shared, you knew that you could expect that weird, almost pretentious tone. Like it wasn't enough to tell us he was gonna come back with the ATF battle armor. He had to say it in cursive. Like, listen to this line and please tell me you can't imagine someone reciting this in a painfully silent classroom.
There was no man willing to sacrifice his mind and body to the world so that he may better it somehow. Whether once was a puny pussy prone to panic attacks, fervently fearing any fraction or fragment of change, there is now a man who will clutch every fresh opportunity that opens itself up to him in order to progress as a person.
Oh look, video games. I'm expecting a ton of gameplay, a good amount of showing and not telling, letting the soundtrack shine.
Video games are without a doubt magnanimously splendid creations of mankind. Because of video games, I have slayed entire legions of demons, fight off swarms of hostile alien invasions, saved and or ended countless amounts of lives, virtually exist in realities that I have only dreamt of, persevere life and make meaningful moral choices, and doing all of that while bringing no harm to anything or anyone in real life.
Dude. Wow. Thanks, Max, for explaining what a video game is. Who is this for? Like, genuinely. Who is this for? It sounds like he's trying to cosplay as Fred Rogers at the United States Senate.
Well, I'm grateful, not only for your goosebumps, but for your interest in our kind of communication.
Not gonna lie, I'm solely watching this in hopes that he mentions Hotline Miami.
Step into my shoes real quick. I was feeling depressed, or sad, or had a bad day, or was bored and saw a clickbait thumbnail and title in my YouTube recommendations, instead of something like the Earl Nightingale speech or anything else that may actually improve me as a person and my outlook on life. Because YouTube prefers showing me mainstream garbage than hidden gems. I click on it, had a few good laughs, and went on to the next one.
Uh-oh. Looks like this person has been infected with shit idiot brain fungus.
Look, man, I'm all for criticizing the platform you're using to upload the videos, but let's at least be honest about the issues. The reason you weren't getting recommended inspirational speeches wasn't because YouTube shows you the mainstream trash instead of the hidden gems. It's because you've been looking at mainstream trash, quote-unquote. In fact, actual mainstream YouTube looked like this in 2014 to 2016.
Hey, how's it going, bros? My name's Welcome! Congrats on the album right here.
YouTube is just gonna show you a cornucopia of whatever you've been watching. So if you've been watching short comedic hit pieces set to CSGO surfing like Leafy, you're gonna get Leafy clones, criticisms on him, and fan accounts. There's also a reason that playlists exist. This isn't the first time Max blames YouTube for something that's ultimately his fault.
As someone who looks up to iDubbbz as an omnipresent figure who wants reign over the totality of the macrocosm, I understand what it's like. But if I found out he did something really stupid, like made an idiot of himself, or touched children...
The dichotomy of made an idiot of himself, or touching children, is just... wow. It is so strange to me how he moral high grounds about being an iDubbbz fan to smear Leafy fans, and acts like he's some badass for potentially not ignoring bad things should they come out. I understand this is hyperbolized because, haha, but my point still stands. Max moral F's every chance he gets, which will end up biting him in the ass.
That everyone, you're all just fucking jealous. Every single one of you. Not because you genuinely believe that there is a problem, kind of like how you people scrutinize terrorists. You don't do that because you truly conclude that terrorism is a disgusting and unacceptable phenomenon happening on the world. You do that because you're jealous of terrorists. Speaking from my logic, everything ever worded against the person or idea that us fangirls and fanboys are in love with is specifically because you are a hater. We are in fact not evolved.
Let it be known for posterity, this is how Max feels about stans. He creates a genius comparison, equating stans to terrorist groups for celebrities. And it seems like he looks down on them.
It's not like fangirls have similar or even the exact mindset that has corresponded to that of an extremist terrorist. Yeah, we both devote an unholy amount of time to defending the reputation of an idea or an individual, I'll give you that. And yeah, we both unconditionally ignore reality and any logical expositions made against me or what we are defending. And yeah, some of us are willing to die for that person or belief, or at the very least attack people that have something against it, almost no different from a sleeper cell. And yeah, we were both exposed to these conditions at a young age during a critical point in our life. But all of those don't matter. A fangirl has a pretty distinct mindset from a terrorist. I think we can all agree on that. Can we agree on that? Someone's gotta agree on it. And even if no one here agrees on it, that's okay, because you're all fucking stupid, y'all don't know what you're talking about, you're all crazy, it's definitely not me, it's all of you. I am a perfectly sound, sane, and altogether well-rounded human being. Whereas Leafy did something like that, I am certain that a portion of his fangirls would continue to touch themselves and even hashtag a stupid fucking phrase like, "Stand with Leafy. Leave Leafy alone. Calvin side or suicide?" Like, here's an actual conversation with a Leafy fan. And what would you do if Leafy killed and raped a 4-year-old? I'd still love him, he's still amazing, and he probably had good reasons for doing it. That 4-year-old must have deserved it. Are you fucking kidding me? No, seriously, like legit, I'd want him to rape me. That 4-year-old would honestly be so lucky. I'm gonna be as honest as I can. You do not deserve to breathe. Shut the fuck up, you're just stupid.
So on one end, Max hates fan culture and finds it toxic. However, on the other end, Max wants and has always wanted to become a superhero. Yeah. Why? What would he do with his powers?
I still want to Iron Man suit every terrorist in the world and kill them all. I would love to do that.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, that's first thing I would want to do as a superhero. Maybe part of what was making Max so violent was...
Except I've never impregnated anyone. In fact, I'm still a virgin as I release this video. I also don't do drugs.
I don't know. I mean, it fits the incel vibe. He needs some drugs.
Talk about the allegations!
Okay, maybe not. I've been very careful about the clips I've included so far, to try to highlight the individual consistencies before showing the full deck of cards. You could see some of Max's darkness in his origins, and hints for it here and there. However, this video is when some of his more colorful tendencies begin to take center stage.
You know those bossy people who you can visibly tell that they think they're above you and better than you and boss you around, to where you just want to slowly but forcefully press your thumbs into their eye sockets until they're violently hemorrhaging from their skulls?
The truth is, 99% of us are gonna have a boss at some point in our lives. We are just gonna have to learn to deal with it. And if those people above you are mean, it's likely a product of issues they're personally dealing with. That doesn't make it any less frustrating, but it's helpful to slowly transforming your attitude towards antagonistic people in your life. And look, this isn't me saying, I love being bossed around. Get used to it, dork. It's me saying, that's just one more unfair thing about the world you need to get used to. A hindrance you must transform personally in order to liberate yourself from it. Does it sound like I'm talking to a moody teenager right now? That's because I am. These are comments on re-uploads that have only a few thousand views on average. People, especially young people, seem to still watch these religiously, and although I can understand the comfort that can come from these sorts of videos, actually taking the advice could be harmful, especially with Max's tainted worldview. Not convinced? I think you might change your mind by the end of Bossy People, but I'll let you make the decision yourself.
And doltishly shouted at you to wipe those triple chins off your obese fucking face, piece of shit. Don't talk to me like I'm less than you.
For those who aren't familiar, I won't reveal Max's age until the end. I'm curious how old you think he is. He genuinely sounds the way I did at around 13 or 14. I feel bad for him in a way. Until I glanced back at the comments and realized there were people who actually followed Max's advice.
It's unfortunate that I won't be able to recall every instance of them borderline bullying me, because there were times where it felt like they were actually crossing the line with us, and I'm sure a few of you get what I'm saying. My teachers, my principals, and even my fucking counselor would yell, no, not just talk, yell and scream at me for something so petty, and
I don't really have much to say here in a concrete way. Wait a second. Do we really think that his teachers, principals, and counselors all yelled at him? Not just talk. Yell? I mean, come on. Please. Comment down below if this was your experience at school, but I'll say it certainly wasn't mine. There were definitely some assholes. There were definitely some people who yelled. Everyone? I don't know. This just genuinely feels like some kind of weird high school fanfic. Maybe that's just me. I don't know.
remembering how unbelievably hostile they were when I was under their employment. Throwing shit at me, invading my personal space, getting all up in my face and asking passive-aggressive rhetorical questions like...
I could see the passive-aggressive comments, but throwing things? I hate puns, but that was a real throwaway line if I've ever seen one. I don't know. I feel like that's what I would have given more details over, more than the passive-aggressive questions. Can anyone tell me if they've had employers who have been this brutal? Genuinely curious.
Or thinking they're so fucking successful and acting as if their motivational speeches mean anything? Bitch, you're a retarded regional manager at a gas station. Shut your ass-wiping mouth like you know how to achieve the greatest in life, when you're almost quite literally at the lowest echelon of any career. And
it's honestly actually making me laugh just how petty and lopsided this man's understanding of things is. He literally made a Leafy video about his manager. Like, why is he Leafy cloning about his personal life? Then this happens.
That moment, he was very lucky that I did not suffer from dissipating psychosis, because if I did, I would have kidnapped him. And then after that, his brains would have been brutally bludgeoned and splattered across the walls of my garage. He should be very thankful that I'm only crazy enough to think about doing that.
I mean, at least he admits he's insane. I think this manager is a real guy. He talks about him in multiple videos.
Life better. I remember working at a gas station and thinking to myself, I would rather die right now than see myself still working here into my 30s, let alone 20s.
I don't think I really need to explain why talking about contemplating kidnapping, torturing, and killing a person is not the best. Imagine this.
You're a tired, disgruntled gas station manager who's watching some YouTube in his night break before he goes to bed. Soon, he comes across a video. Life sucks. Bossy people. Which he feels the need to watch. As his boss, the owner of the gas station could be a real jerk. He watches. His face fills with abject terror as he realizes how close he was to being Ed Kimbered by a cross of Richard Ramirez and Jeffrey Dahmer, with a dash of Elliot Rodger.
I'd probably just move and leave and never come back. I probably sound really jaded to the hyper-violent imagery he's putting forth in this video, and I hope it's a little jarring to you, but trust me, you'll get used to it. After everything he says, he has the audacity to put forth.
Certainly more than uncomfortable with the events that transpired between myself and management. Am I allowed to sue the company for this? Because it's practically harming me.
Welp, let's see what his ideas of damages for his harassment is.
By building stress, generating acne, increasing blood pressure, and causing depression to the point where I have the debilitating desire to blow their heads off.
It's all fun and games until someone like Randy Stair comes along. Would do exactly that around a year after Max made this video. With the amount Max talks about violence against others, it really concerns me. People in this subgenre of psycho tend to leave red flags everywhere for the world to see. I watched a great documentary on Randy Stair, and I think if you watched it, people, you'd feel nauseous. So I've shown you a few of Max's more general video topics to give you a good idea of what to expect. However, Max's uploads definitely tended to lean towards a lot of personal exposition. Let's play a game to try to laugh in the face of all of this horrific edgelord darkness. I don't know if you've ever heard of r/thathappened, but just in case you haven't, here's one of their most popular posts.
I had to get my vaccine this morning, but my arms were too big for the needle and kept breaking it. The nurse was like, "Whoa, these are the biggest arms we've ever seen, and we just had Dwayne The Rock Johnson in here last week. Guess I gotta start taking it easy in the gym."
With that out of the way, let's look at our first potential r/thathappened post.
Just the other day, while I was driving down the street to pick my sister from school, I saw a very familiar face mowing the lawn of a very familiar house. He was one of the bestest friends I've ever had that faded out of existence, it seemed. I looked at him and felt very scared for some reason, with a few shots of adrenaline pulsing within me. Do any of you guys get that weird feeling when you see a person you haven't seen in a long time that you have a history with? That's what I felt. Anyways, I stomped on the brakes and rushed out of the car and sprinted towards him as fast as I could. As I was running, I saw him make a huge smile at my face and say the words, "You're Max." I could seriously feel the tears wanting to explode out of my eyes, but since I'm a man with a large ball sack, I held them in with every fiber of my eye with strength. As soon as I got to him, I jumped on top of him and gave him the most awkward and beautiful man hug that I have ever experienced. It was one of the greatest feelings I've ever felt in my whole life.
Instead of me being the judge, though, I'd rather you all tell me if you think this story is real. Just thinking about Max screeching to a halt, parking his car in the middle of the street, and jumping onto this man isn't the part that I don't believe. It's that this man's reaction was, "You're Max," and not, I guess different people have different ways of responding to trauma.
As hours collide through reality, you start to realize something. You painstakingly try to ignore the fact that your brain is noticing that it doesn't matter whether you are in school or outside of school. This is getting boring. My life is boring. I'm boring.
So yeah, he's getting bored and running into even his leisure activities boring him. But this was just another clip of Life Sucks School. Here's Life Sucks Boredom.
Shit on my dick and spin on a cylinder made a fist fit for a feisty man named Max who shoves letter openers into his eyes. Goddamn dude, that hurts a lot. Make it stop. Okay, let me just run myself into a turbo force 3-speed electric grinder. Then my blood explodes out of it like a birthday party made of body parts. Fart so hard till my intestines rupture out of my anus. Is this really real? It feels fake, but it ain't. Paint my world with black and white like a panda prone pituitary palpitations. I decided to divide my dick in half with its mouth. Wow, so many rhymes and alliteration in this idiotic and moronic stupid furry fucking goddamn bitch shitting gun sucking sack packing cesspool, the most retarded grouping of words.
Yo, that was literally the Joker. Having a spaz about Batman.
Just a note, I'm not going to try and say that anxiety is as bad as depression, or epidermolysis bullosa, or being burned alive, because in that respect, those are obviously far worse for someone to deal with.
Good lord, this is an invalidating and dangerous perspective to spread to the mentally vulnerable Max catered to at the time. Let me make an equivalent example using Max's own logic here. Just a note, I'm not gonna say losing a hand is as bad as losing a foot, having terminal cancer, or having every inch of your skin played off. Because in that respect, these are obviously far worse for someone to deal with. I hope my point is clear here. What makes something worse, especially between two mental health disorders, is merely subjective perspective. For some people who deal with symptoms of depression and anxiety, like Max, their depression is far worse. For many others, however, their anxiety can be paralyzing and defeating to a greater extent than their depression. I don't like the way that Max constructs these arguments. It feels disingenuous.
I'm always fucking scared to talk to people. I can't help but overthink every scenario and end up just giving up on it out of some kind of fear of possible rejection or being made fun of. I would go up to the front of the class to present some bullshit, and my legs wouldn't stop shaking, and in turn I'd get made fun of for it. So not only does anxiety cause me stress inside, it is also the cause for certain outcomes that fuck my shit up too. And then they end up stacking on top of each other, so in turn, after I get made fun of for my legs shaking, I'll start tearing up at the eyes, trying my best to keep at least a fraction of self-control, and then I hear the roaring laughter of the classroom, witnessing how fucking weird and pathetic I am. So then I'd start bawling my eyes out. And my teachers never knew what to fucking do except stare at me in confusion, because I guess they were clueless as to what the fuck anxiety does to people.
r/that happened, front page news. Part 2. Let's just redo it on our own from here, and see how it sounds objectively. Yeah, dude. All I know is...
I can't help but mindlessly envy others as they revel in their lives, full-heartedly cakewalking through their days, executing every action with ease, while every waking moment for me is a potential opportunity for my brain to shut off, forcing me not to know what the fuck to do or say.
Newsflash. Other people are just a lot better at hiding what Max is unable to. Sometimes even to themselves. He has a very selfish mentality of, I am the only one suffering. We live in a society.
Hi, this is Tommy Wiseau, creator of The Room. Let me introduce you to the new Joker.
I won't even go into my low self-esteem that much because that alone is a whole other topic in the video. But yeah, it doesn't fucking help when I look and feel like a pile of vomit every day with dry skin and dandruff and glasses and a shriveled up skeleton of a body, not to mention the goddamn breeding ground of pimples all over my fucking face.
Look, I'm not saying these qualities of Max's help, but what about your extremely disturbing, unchecked mental health issues?
Every morning, as I was preparing to go to school or work, I would be met with a wave of relentless mental pressure, like, I don't want to do this. I'd beg to stay home or call in sick for work just to feel the relief of anxiety. And it's not like I can just go to the doctor for this. I live in fucking America where health insurance is for those that already have a plethora of expendable income.
This may have been a valid excuse when he wasn't making money, but for more than one reason, I think he continued that practice.
I would go on YouTube and type how to talk to girls, or how to be funny, or how to overcome anxiety, or how to keep myself from receiving heart attacks every time someone makes eye contact with me. And every fucking video was the same, giving common sense and bullshit I already know, or things that didn't even slightly work the way it was described. Like, smile more. If you can't smile because you're not happy, then suck it up, dude. Go back to lesson 1 and come back whenever your testicles are large enough. Happiness is a choice, so make that choice and start smiling, or go live under a rock where you belong.
His discounting anxiety was him downplaying his conditions to be some stupid pick-me sympathy bait.
I recognize it's not as good as depression, but it's still sad.
Too bad, anytime I slightly touched someone, I was replied with an ew. So as it turns out, no. Any help I searched or asked for met me with a warm welcome to disappointment. I guess they just didn't work for someone like me because my case was too severe or whatever. Just a note, I'm not going to try and say that anxiety is as bad as depression, or epidermolysis bullosa, or being burned alive, because in that respect, those are obviously far worse for someone to deal with.
Literally the same video. It's the same video. It's the same video. It's not even a different video from at the same time. It's just that it's the same video.
You are a goddamn human being who has an indisputable requisite to ease of mind, just like everybody else.
What in the goddamn hell are you talking about?
No mindset, or specific action, or ritual that'll just make it easy for you. It is going to be really fucking difficult at first. And the only thing you can do is to fucking take the walk. And with time, you'll find that there's an entirely different side of the world filled with awesome and beautiful people and things for you to experience. All you have to do is step towards it.
As always, Max makes this seem deceptively fun. Look, there's no easy way about it. And reconditioning yourself to socialization is uncomfortable and has a lot of bad moments. Keeping that in mind, it does reap eventual good benefits of human companionship, connection, and belonging. However, to ignore the difficulties and risks of attaining such is likely to have people give up before they even really get to the good stuff, since they think it'll be easy. Like, you just have to know when you just step towards it, you're bound to get hurt. Be careful and take care of yourself, but walk the line between that and paranoia. Your own mental and personal safety is the most important when it comes to actually improving your life. I'm not saying don't do things that make you uncomfortable. I'm saying maybe don't start your stepping towards it with something that gives you mental anguish. I'm saying that if you fall in too deep, you're bound to either barely escape with your life and vow to never try again, or drown. Or maybe you'll be that 1 in 1,000 who swims laps around everyone and just had to be pushed out of the nest. But I don't like those odds. Usually a one-size-fits-all explanation on difficult, weighty experiences and how to handle them results in some people happy, with others doubling down on their seemingly uncurable misery.
Oh, Max, how would you describe yourself? Worthless, pointless, useless, meaningless, unimportant, and unmemorable. Does that adequately answer your question? Yes. This is not just self-deprecation. This is not just self-loathing. This is not just creative frustration, and this is not just silly joking. I will not be remembered is unfortunately a factual statement.
This is only the case if we're taking the statement to its implicational conclusion. If we're being truthful, it's better to say, I will eventually not be remembered. But hey, we still talk about Terrare, and he was famous for, like, eating babies and stuff hundreds of years ago. So you never really know. Plus, your immediate family, friends, and those that you've had an impact on will remember you, exponentially compounded by the amount of time you spend with them. Further, you can leave an impact on the world through your standout actions, either of selfless generosity or selfish greed. And those actions have a domino effect on the world around you. If you can conceivably understand the butterfly effect, it's the same concept. The point of our lives isn't to be remembered as some deific entity. And if your aspirations are that grand, it's time to get rid of your main character syndrome. All of us are just trying to make the world a better place, in our own way. Fame and being known is such a small part of the equation of life. And if people get sucked into those things, they can start to think it's the natural end goal. Celebrities' lives seem to be so easy, so great, being famous, loved, and known. But the reality is it comes with its fair share of risks.
You ain't got the answers, man!
Downsides, haters, and an inability to live a normal life.
Morning, Kanye.
That's why we have stories as popular as Aladdin, where we have ultra-rich royalty disguising themselves as the poor solely for the sake of being around normal humanity. Again, I know that comes from a very privileged place, and I don't have a ton of sympathy for those in the spotlight, especially when they choose to be. However, the truth of being famous is way less exciting and worry-free than we would like to think it is. If you ever really sat down and got to the bottom of why you wanted to be famous, why you wanted to be remembered, you'll realize it's either one of two things. You're insecure and want comfort, or you're scared. If you're insecure and want comfort of either financial security or a circle of people, these can be achieved without fame, and thus without the massive pitfalls of fame. Scared? We all are. Get used to it, and have a dialogue with that fear.
I actually realistically wonder how many people are born into the world blindly believing that they'll make a difference and be successful, zealously pursuing that dream they need to make real in order to feel fulfilled in their life, as if they'll strike a chord in the hearts and heads of men like what they do and who they are is integral for the betterment of mankind, and end up failing. Kind of like what it looks like I'm doing. Failing.
Max makes not being remembered seem so melodramatic and scary. Don't get me wrong. It used to sort of scare me too. Eventually you'll start to realize the world is just so much bigger than me, or Max, or you. Like, of course, we're not gonna be remembered. It would be insane of us to expect to be. Why would we need to be? He said it himself. There are billions of people on Earth. Are you really so egotistical that you believe you deserve to be one of the few that is widely remembered for generations? Do you really think you deserve to be one of those 1,000 names? If humans from 250 years watch this video, they probably won't know who the hell Beyonce is.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
That was what seems to be absurdly impossible now. For me, I wanted to be a superhero.
Let me ask you all a question. Did you ever, at any point in your childhood, want to become a superhero? I don't think I'd be assuming too much to say most of us did. Now, take a second to think about this before you answer. But why did you want to become a superhero? For me, I was always a massive animal nerd. So I really just wanted to be some kind of beast boy. That didn't have to be green. I'd just be all the different animals and just have adventures. I'm not gonna act like me wanting to be a superhero was some selfless act. I didn't want to save people. I just wanted to have powers that would either entertain and fascinate me or help me with everyday problems. Here's Max's reason for wanting to be a superhero as a kid.
People would have remembered me for that. The world, and yet we still want to die. Why? And now that I'm thinking about it, why wouldn't we want to die?
Alrighty. So, there's the doom-celled black pill outlook. What do we do if we have it?
For the rest of you who have no light at the end of your tunnel, the rest of you who have nothing to live for, the rest of you who actually want to die like me, then become that light at the end of that tunnel.
Oh wow! I like this. Like, become the light for yourself and motivate yourself out of the hole.
Fuck anything else, guys. I want to be that light for y'all, and I want you to be that light for someone else.
Whereas I was interpreting the quote to be charitable and empowering, he's using this as a larger metaphor for his own hero/Jesus complex. However, it's even worse, as he's actively encouraging people to attempt to become saviors rather than addressing their own issues, which may be fine in the short term, but leads to explosions.
It's cheesy, it sounds so stupid, but fucking do it anyways. You know what I mean when I say it. Become the light at the end of the tunnel.
In a way, I'm reminded of the lighthouse. If we're to use the image of the lighthouse with this mysterious eldritch force inside, yet outwardly providing life-saving light to distant ships, we get Max's view of himself. I think back to Max's earlier statements on the channel's intentions on Inception. It seems like originally, Life Sucks was supposed to be a critique on life and the world around him. However, as the more depressing content garnered more views, he did more of it. Does that sound like someone becoming the light?
If you want to die, then you better save this world before you actually do. Because then you wanting to die wasn't such a bad thing after all.
There is a perceived point in which it's okay to give up on yourself. At which point, your priorities must become helping others. This is eventually self-defeating, as devoting your entire life and hope of improvement to the benefit of others will quickly produce a hollow, inhuman shell, devoid of energy for anyone. Max operates on a binary a lot of times, and I think this is a good paradigm of this behavior.
I don't want to die. I want to die. For something I believe in. I hope you do the same.
He classifies wanting to die for something you believe in as in some way morally sound, or nobler than downright suicide. This within itself is very shaky, as following one's beliefs here and now should not necessitate death. The Nazis thought they were doing something good.
Unless it's something bad, don't fucking do that. Stupid bitch. Don't do bad.
Nine!
Great. This is a total cop-out, and feels like the same cop-out he provides in other situations. So are we speaking from a morally objective sense of bad? Because personal clearly will not work here. What can one die for that is objectively morally good? Very few things which necessitate loss of a human life are able to provide a sufficient counterweight, given that within itself, it requires the snuffing out of a soul. Dying for something, quote-unquote, is the way the United States classified the thousands of young men sent home in body bags from Vietnam. Surely, a good amount of the boys died fighting for something they believed in. Does that make their deaths in some way noble or right? No. And it just worsens the blow of Vietnam's continued split, meaning the war's goal was never achieved. Let's not forget about the brave troops who died in the Iraq War, which was mostly for the sake of oil. The Korean War, World War II is the past. And gone are the seemingly black and white conflicts for the sake of saving ethnic minorities. Our more recent global conflicts are more the uncaring power politics and bullying. What else is there to die for?
Ooh, I know.
Maybe being a pedophile out there.
You got the self-conscious people who won't accept your genuine compliments. I'm so ugly. No, you're not. You're beautiful. No, I'm not. And you got the people who take their anger of everything else out on you. Fine then. You look like shit and don't deserve to ever be complimented again. You ungrateful garbage can.
And now back to Wheel of Fortune. All right, Randy, congratulations on making it all the way to the bonus round. Well, let's see if you can't make everyone proud. The category is people who annoy you. Okay, well, looks like you're gonna get a lot of help here. Category is people who annoy you. Audience, keep quiet, please. 10 seconds, Mr. Marsh.
A video about invisible walls in video games. I'm desperate and running out of ideas. I read out the word nigger on a live stream. I'm racist.
Huh?
Wasting years in captivation of anger with me facing backwards, walking straight into a nightmare's chamber, caved in on me, screaming, waiting impatiently. I see myself in paintings, plainly being in pain. I think these paintings say basically frustration is fleeting. Maybe you've got a test or an exam and all your study material doesn't make a lick of sense. It makes you want to pull your eyes out. Or you're working for a job that you're terribly overqualified for and getting underpaid at, even though you could do your boss's job infinitely better than they could. Or you've got a dying YouTube channel that's too morbid and serious for casual viewers to want to watch, and when you try something different, you begin to alienate your hardcore fan base, and then when you try to appeal to them, people tell you that you're boring and you don't do anything different, to where no matter what you do, you're always failing at something so hard you'd rather be giving 50-cent blowjobs to big black men with cocks so huge amount. I do want to apologize, by the way. I know I make a big deal about views when it seems like I shouldn't. I should be focusing on just making the greatest piece of art I can for both you and me, but I can't quite explain how detrimentally important they are. Not just financially, but specifically inspirationally. Mama Max was never supposed to be a depression channel. It just turned into that because my videos with depressing topics got the most views, so I just made more of them. I wanted this to be more of a channel that shows how stupid something is, like jobs or money or capitalism or terrorism or mosquitoes or loneliness. But then after my loneliness video blew up, it's all like, hey, can you make more loneliness videos? And I was like, yeah, alright. Have you started to catch on to Max's tactics? If not, don't worry. In our next video, Max will literally give us a blueprint. Hey guys, I'm really depressed. My life is sad. I'm sad. I'm making you sad. I'm worthless. We're all worthless. I ponder suicide on a regular basis. But it's okay, this channel is your home now. Sunshine and rainbows. I will indoctrinate all of you to depend on me in my videos explaining your psychology and mentality because I'm a piece of shit. Mama Max makes me sick. Why else would he make videos talking about serious subjects? No one would do that unless they are despicable scum who wants to manipulate people. Not to mention he's actually a bully. He acts nice to compensate for his lack of personality, so people won't know that he's an asshole. There have been many occasions in which he lashes out at others who disagree with his opinions. Dumbass. I think that explains more than enough. He's too sensitive to handle criticism, so he has to make 20-minute long videos about why someone was wrong about their criticisms of him. Oh yeah, dumbass, you called me an idiot right here, when clearly you're the idiot. It makes me sick. He's a fake, trying to make views off of the sick and the sad. And when he's not, he's trying to make views from other topics as if he's some kind of comedic genius. Blatant sarcasm. AIDS is so awesome, but actually it's not. Hey guys, look at me. I can talk in a non-depressed voice. I'm so funny. I'm such a comedic genius. Then I can say things sarcastically. His purpose is to make money and views off of people who he thinks he makes happy, when that couldn't be further. The twist reveal is every single thing I said in this video were actual written and verbal comments made to me. And they really do make me hate myself. Despite some of these being excessively anonymous lies and... Max stays consistent. I'm keeping this list up for anyone who hasn't looked yet. This falls in line with the whole Christ figure mentality, as he reminds everyone, he's just human. One of the quote-unquote lies that commenters told him is he attempts to unrealistically cure or solve people's issues.
When seriously pondering the question of hating yourself, this is what Max says.
And if you are someone who hates yourself, stop.
This aptly describes a lot of Max's conclusions, and begins to give me a sense for why these forms of content were so popular. Because of the fact they related to depressed people a lot. They made them feel safe within it. And rather than copiously discussing the amount of work involved in changing yourself, emphasizing the believe in yourself, and acting like it's all a Rocky montage, from there gives people comfort, and puts a small, I'll get better tomorrow band-aid I've applied to myself way too many times. But when the next day comes, it all starts over again. Because videos like this don't actually make any lasting change. And eventually, the crack will grow, and the band-aid won't be able to cover the damage. And, as it always does, the dam will break. As Max says several times in the videos, only you are able to make the changes for yourself.
Whether you know it or not, sooner or later or even now, you yourself will be saving the world, piece by piece, in your own beautiful way. All it takes is for you to believe that. And when you do, I just want to say thank you for your service here in this life. Thank you.
But he seems to intentionally mislead his audience into thinking becoming these things are a matter of choice. Sounds like someone has not found healthy coping mechanisms, and is now projecting these unhealthy coping mechanisms onto ignorant, mentally ill children. It makes sense why this format of video was successful, and perhaps in some way even addictive, as it gives just the right amount of hope for an inspirational dopamine rush. Now we've covered a good amount of Max's personal issues, and his problematic relationship with his audience. Let's look to more of his personal relationships, and see what we can figure out from videos speaking about them.
It's like being the third wheel in a relationship, except there is no relationship or two other people.
What?
Let's make an equivalency. This works with literally any combination of groups that inspire some kind of feeling. It's just like when you're with two friends who haven't seen each other in a long time, except they're not even there. You're just alone, and there is no friends. It's just you. It's just like when Deaf Noodles and Skid Row Steve are about to punch you in the face, but they're not actually there. It's just you. You're by yourself. Like, yes, the people aren't there. Thanks, Max.
From the cold, empty feeling you get inside. But yeah, it's so fucking hard to be us, because we're the ones who want to feel loved and be loved and give love. And yet, that's not what we get. In turn, we get to watch as all of these undeserving pieces of shit, assholes and bitches and dicks and jocks and sluts, getting all of the attention they could ever want and not even appreciating it. People like us would kill for that, and yet they just blow it off like it's nothing. And I remember seeing all this and being, wow, well, I guess this is what the world is like. I guess I'm just too boring and too ugly and too weak and too pathetic and too weird to ever be liked by another human being.
I used to be like this to a certain degree, but it ended towards the end of my sophomore year of high school. I was lucky enough to meet a good group of friends, and they taught me a very important lesson that I'd never forget. I was eternally in my own world. I never put myself out there, and if Max took the just do it attitude that he gives in most of his videos, it would prove helpful.
To be ignored just because that's how evolution works. Mates need a strong, powerful, and good-looking individual, and I just wasn't any of those things by any stretch of the imagination. Despite the few facts that, according to what I was told, may be bearable, I was a very nice guy, maybe I was a little funny, and probably had a few unique things about me.
Having this tribalistic incel mentality of the Chads and Stacys is very toxic, as it instantly alienates you and ensures your social class staying static. Upon realizing the only thing that truly separates you from the popular kids is their ability to speak well given the situation, and having a good sense of humor, and acting like they know what's going on, one can adapt. All of this is to say, I really decry the notion of some set social hierarchy, as it really only applies to closed, mostly adolescent situations such as high school. Max didn't go to college, so he doesn't know. I do. If you didn't get along well with people in high school,
the odds of you finding a group you vibe with in college is a lot higher. It's a lot easier to find different types of people. And obviously, college isn't an option for everyone, but I'm not talking about a traditional university. There are so many different types of things out there, but even a degree at a community college, any community college, can give one an informed experience into socialization better than Max. I just hate this weird notion that society is controlled by the looks and popularity. I think that's so phony. I had the same experiences as you, and the truth is...
But no one would ever care enough to actually find out those things about me, so in turn I was just an outcast that no one ever knew anything about. Being ignored and unnoticed possesses a terrible amount of sadness that crawls up your sleeve when it happens.
The way you get people interested in the things you're interested in is by going out on a limb and talking about them. Probing, trying, using tiny introductory questions to gauge interest. Then, when such is displayed, acting on it and furthering the conversation. If you just give up, you're never gonna find anyone who cares. The person who cares could have been right next to Max, but because he resorted to piping down and retreating, he was never able to have that connection.
They don't know. They don't know.
I'll even show you guys some of the things that I used to post at a later date to see if what I was doing back then was actually uninteresting, or if they were just purposely not liking and replying to what I posted so they wouldn't get caught in a conversation with someone as ugly as me.
Oh man, dude. When he goes through the post history, I don't know. As Max has frequently talked about, his fellow students' impression of him was likely aloof and strange. Who really cares what he was posting? And actually including that on there, as if to act like that's the problem within itself, is just strange and weirdly personal where it doesn't need to be. Max's posts didn't get likes because of his unaddressed, crippling social anxiety that caused him to be awkward, give up too easily, and aloof when in conversation. Max even indicates as much. He must then understand why the post didn't get likes. People like this don't understand that social media doesn't matter as much to everyone. Other people have larger outside lives, and social media demands a tiny part of that. Max clearly obsessed over this to a point of conspiring about the people he followed not liking his posts to cope?
And what sucked even more was when someone who was popular or good-looking in school posted something right after or right before you did, and you see your mutual friends liking and talking to them, but not you. It sincerely was debilitating.
You really have to account for your own interests. Ultimately, if you're invisible on social media, then you can do your best to remedy it. But his activities, talking about devoting all of his efforts and time to others, is unlikely to reap him much success. The reason quote-unquote cool people are thought of so highly is because they are secure in themselves, and they know what they like and what they don't. In that way, pitifully devoting every waking moment to someone for their attention is unlikely to win anything but some pity, much less mutual respect and friendship.
I remember back when I thought I had friends, I would always be there for them, whether it be doing their homework or doing them a favor or just being someone they can vent to. And then when I asked, you want to hang out? Or can you talk right now? You know exactly what they'd say. Oh, sorry, I'm busy.
Look, if this is the reality of the situation, get better friends. Part of that comes with raising your own self-esteem so your standards for friends are better. If someone doesn't want to be your friend, that's their problem, not yours. And once you go to an environment like college, things tend to be much less cliquey and more accepting.
All I did was make a random ass YouTube video about Leafy for no other reason than the fact that I was bored, and now I'm not bullshitting you here. I have to keep myself from crying during my live streams just because I can see how beautiful it is to see the amount of friends I have talking to me and keeping me completely safe from loneliness. It really is momentous to me that you guys have happened in my life, and I promise you that it will happen for you as long as you start doing something about it. And I know some of you will ask, well, what should I do? And just like me, you're gonna have to figure that out for yourself, because everyone's life and scenarios and personalities, everything is fucking.
I just want to point out, I think Max's parasocial relationship with his audience seems to extend both ways, as he used them to remedy his loneliness after blowing up.
The mirror is my second worst enemy. The first is my face.
Bro,
Because that's mostly what you feel if your face is like mine. Ugly.
Look, one of my favorite streamers who goes into various internet hidden trash, Deadwing Dork, said it best. For a lot of these guys, it's not even because they're ugly. And if they were able to act normal, they probably wouldn't be having too much of a problem getting women. Where these men think it's their looks scaring the women away, it's their dark, creepy energies and the discomfort that they bring women. If Max looked the exact same way and wasn't socially inept, I believe he would be in a completely different situation. I realized I fooled myself into thinking that because I was completely introverted. It's important to have moments like that. That's maturity. That's growth. There were some really ugly guys in high school, just like objectively, that never had any problem with women. Looks really aren't as much as you think they are. They certainly play a part, but confidence and self-assurance is just as important. I hope this is a recreation rather than an actual copy-paste. Can this man please just get a life and stop pitifully asking everyone else to build his desperately needed self-worth?
Her name's Claire. I was able to make Claire constantly laugh. I was one of the few people who respected Claire. I was always giving my gum and pencils to Claire. I did my best to help Claire with all of her homework and assignments.
I can't stop thinking about this stupid meme. But instead of growing into a rich man, he grew into this weird pseudo-vigilante hunting pedos on the light web.
Is it just a coincidence that people with better jobs that make more money are good looking? Or is it because that's what people care about?
Sorry to do this, Max, but these are actually the rich. And let me tell you, man, they're ugly as hell.
Is it just a coincidence that almost everyone famous in popular culture, from actors to musicians, are good looking? Or is it because that's what people care about?
Conventional societal attractiveness does yield benefits. Life, as usual, is not fair. If you don't have that exceptional conventional attractiveness, get the fuck over it. It's a tiny piece of the pie. Those good-looking people are usually also at least somewhat talented, conventionally attractive-looking people that are waiting to fill those spots. But we still have people like Willem Dafoe, Steve Buscemi, etc., 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 who are awesome entertainers and actors and also just happen to look like goblin people. Far uglier than Max's permanent Jeff the Killer cosplay. But we don't care. They're enormously talented and deserve their fame. But do you think that they sat there in their basement and ranted at a camera, being like,
I am so ugly and I will never get a girl. Truly, only the attractive succeed. We sure do live in a society. But like wholesome, once you cool.
No. These guys were like, nah, man, I'll just be funny and fun to be around and talented, and those aspects of them did the work for them. If you're not conventionally attractive, yes, it's gonna be a steeper hill, but it's nowhere near impossible, or even significantly harder.
At least you have a nice personality. Fuck you.
This guy, he's literally proving that he doesn't even have a nice personality.
Yeah, fuck off. All of you who fucking say that shit, then immediately prove yourself wrong. I traded Brianna like a queen and got rejected because she was interested in someone who was better looking.
If you don't understand what the problem is here, I don't know what to say to you. She says, "You're my best friend." It doesn't take a Nobel Prize winner to know the next words to come out of your mouth shouldn't be, "Does this mean you'll go out with me?" What?
Huh?
Everything, being good looking is integral for social prosperity, and I am not socially prosperous.
I think he just cleared out an entire row of incel bingo in one sentence. Great job, Max. Being good looking is integral for social prosperity? Please look at the people around you. Most of them are gonna be pretty plain, at least by society standards. I don't think it's integral for social prosperity. Let's be honest. He really just said this so he could say this next.
I look like disease. Max sits next to Haley in forensics class. Max makes a bunch of silly jokes and Haley laughs quite a lot. Someone on the other side of the table says, "Y'all are cute together, maybe you should go out." Haley says, no. Depression.
Without getting into all of it, Haley and Max were best friends. Do you not understand that for most people who are best friends, the idea of dating their best friend is gross? Even if you can't understand that, you can at least respect it and have enough common sense to know that it's a situational answer dependent on your existing relationship.
Fucking dumbass. Have y'all ever seen other handsome and pretty people and tried to exactly emulate what they do and look like? Like doing your hair or putting on makeup, and then fail miserably? Looking at the fugly failure you are, feeling almost non-human from your facial insufficiency.
Dude. I mean, holy cow. I can't believe I have to be the grass specialist over here, but hello. Look, Max, different people, including different beautiful people, have different body types, shapes, and facial structures. Because of that, what looks great on one beautiful person might look atrocious on you. It's not about directly mimicking everything Chris Hemsworth does. Of course, if you do that, you're gonna look like a cracked out homeless man. You have to figure out what's gonna look good on or with you. It's as simple as that. Start with getting healthy.
All of you who feel ugly, every single one of you, I'm betting my life to you that there are a near limitless number of things you can do to bring yourself up to at least a 9 out of 10 in terms of looks. Even if your face has some severe disfigurement, then major facial reconstruction is still an option if you want it. I'm not even saying that as a joke, it exists for one of these very reasons. Listen to me, I'm not a shallow shithead who's telling you to pretty yourself up. I am a fellow friend telling you that it's not impossible if you want to. If you don't, then good for you. That's fine.
Constant exercising, eating well, getting good sleep. From there, you're gonna start looking like your most attractive natural self. If you want to pursue changes from there, great. But I'm never one for those weird, easy, unrealistic answers that just solve everything and make you at least a 9 out of 10.
It is horrible that quote-unquote ugly people get the short end of the stick for no fault of their own yet still feel the repercussions of their disadvantages. I agree, that is fucking awful. But there's still something they can do about it. They can prove to their species that they deserve to be a part of it. I went every damn day of my pitiful life praying for a female to find me higher than a 5 in their eyes, feeling the full lack of companionship.
I guess nobody's told Max about the physically handicapped, or racism, or people who aren't neurotypical, or any other outgroup in society. Yes, Max, outgroups do get alienated. Thank you.
To this very day of making this video, I still have yet to kiss any human lips. But
human lips. Human lips?
For the rest of you who realize that change is possible, and that ugliness doesn't have to be permanent, and that beauty is actually attainable, I believe in you, and can't wait to see what you turn yourself into.
Obviously, I won't deny that there is an objective societal beauty standard, meaning that certain characteristics are deified and revered in our society. However, beauty is personally subjective. To be honest, I usually find most of the rich and famous very ugly, even the quote-unquote attractive ones. It all seems so plastic and fake to me. I might not be the majority, but there is no objective beauty standard. Beauty is completely subjective in interpersonal, individual circumstances. You shouldn't be working out to look good. You should be working out because it makes you feel better, makes you feel confident in yourself.
The image of the dead, that is in my mind.
You don't need to try to look like someone else. You can try to be the best version of you can. If you do, non-threatening authenticity is one of the rarest and most attractive qualities people can have.
Claire showed me how to be confident. Brianna showed me how to smile. Haley showed me how to love myself. And Lulu shows me that I can be loved, and that I am loved.
So we've got Claire, Brianna, Haley, and Lucy. There will be more. Max only confirmed dated one of these women, Lucy, and Haley, as I said earlier,
was one of Max's best friends in high school. I'm not entirely sure about Claire and Brianna, but they were also probably friends of his. Either way, it's still weird to be mentioning all of these real people on your channel, especially since at this point, you don't talk to at least one of them anymore. Doesn't really feel appropriate, but who cares? Well, since Max now has that lovely girlfriend, his loneliness is somewhat satiated. That doesn't change his vitriolic hatred of Valentine's Day, though.
Let's just have wild sex at school, working on the street, so we can actually and truly express how much we really love our significant other to everyone else, since that seems to be the fucking point of this day anyway.
How does that sound, Lulu?
No.
She agrees with me, so tune in next time when we release our...
I honestly don't know what to say about this. This is the third mention of Lucy I found, and all of them outside of Max initially introducing her are very sexual, and usually involve her saying no in some way.
I despise this holiday, and Lulu and I will hate on it with all of you, and everyone else here will be hating on it with you too.
Right? And if you don't think that it sucks...
Fuck off. Just kidding. But not really. Seriously. Slit your throat, and open it up with a pencil, and pull the skin over your face. Once again, just kidding, but once again, not really.
Cool. Thanks, Max. He took a break from the depressing topics to tell all of us how to get a significant other of our own, which certainly makes sense, given the fact that he's on his first girlfriend at the time of this video's release.
Stop fucking thinking you're destined to be lonely, unless you truly don't want anyone. You can blame the universe and everyone else all you want, but you gotta take some responsibility at some point. And once you do, you'll better yourself to be enough for that someone who wants you. Alright, guys?
Even what I was about to call Max's best advice, I still have a problem with. I think that rather than taking accountability for being alone, you can healthily evaluate yourself and remove toxic traits from yourself.
Hell no, dude. If you want to get a girl or guy, then you're gonna have to be very good looking, very smart, very talented, very funny, very charismatic, very strong, and very whatever else you tell yourself that you have to be in order to be loved.
So if you have these things, will you be lovable? And to be lovable, do you have to have these things? This is such a juvenile understanding of love, dude.
I know what it's like to fall in love with no one there to catch you, where you fall flat on your fucking face like the pathetic little bitch ass you are, and it hurts a lot, specifically in your chest and in your head, you know?
I wonder who this could be about.
Like you did, you can do so much for a person and they don't even do anything back to you that matches the same degree of value that you did for them. For example, you give them $1,000 and then they call the police on you and say you're a rapist for no reason.
What about filming yourself cutting your wrists and tagging your crush's boyfriend on his Facebook wall? That's a pretty grand gesture. And then they call the police on you.
For no reason. If there are certain people you look up to that you find mentally or physically attractive, then I recommend doing what I did and trying to be like them in your own unique way to make it yourself. Do not force yourself to become someone else because it's blatantly obvious and people will know that you're a poser.
Max uses the wrong formula but still gets the right answer. You shouldn't carbon copy someone else's personality. Yes, but not because people will know you're a poser. It's because you have the characteristics that are unique to you. And to hide them in attempting to become a better or cooler or more desirable person is terrible. For you and for others. You can never learn to love yourself playing a character. Sure, more people will like you, but they're not really liking you. Be yourself, and the people who are attracted to your characteristics will come.
But I really like Ryan Gosling, Tyler Joseph, Eminem, and iDubbbz. Every other person is going to tell you be yourself, but what if yourself isn't good enough for either you or the people that you like? What then, huh?
Dude, what the hell? It's one thing to realize maybe there's something you do that tick people off and adjust that habit a bit. I hope I don't have to explain why this is awful.
Being myself was the main reason why many people didn't romantically or sexually like me. It's only okay to be yourself if you are already capable of making people like you, including yourself.
I genuinely cannot stress how harmful hearing something like this from someone you trust is. A lot of people had a really weird parasocial relationship with Max, and as you can tell by some of the later darker subjects, it was prone to attract more mentally ill. Whether they're affected by depression, anxiety, PTSD, whatever,
It's a horrible blow to hear it's only okay to be yourself when you've become good enough to be liked. Max, this shows you have a ton of problems and you need counseling. And you certainly should not be giving other mentally ill people advice on how to live their lives and be happy. For God's sake, man. At this point, you were literally dating your first girlfriend. Why are you giving advice about this?
If you can't smile because you're not happy, then suck it up, dude. Go back to lesson 1 and come back whenever your testicles are large enough. Happiness is a choice, so make that choice and start smiling, or go live under a rock where you belong.
It is so weirdly lopsided to hear a mentally ill person parroting incorrect psychological rhetoric. Happiness is a choice. Since when are any of our feelings voluntary? This is news to me. I didn't realize I had a happiness button on the side of my head. No. You can certainly make the best of things, you can be positive, you can smile in the face of dread and have a good attitude, but none of these things are real happiness. Happiness is a wonderful feeling and it's only gained experientially. So to just tell these mentally vulnerable people that they can just choose to be happy, it's awful.
When it comes to that one person you really like, if you find that you're writing paragraph-long text messages confessing your love to them, spending all of your money on them when neither of you are in a committed relationship, writing poems and songs to them, devoting all of your time to them, or otherwise trying to impress them in any kind of way, then you are being the rapist.
What about telling your crush she could meet your sister, and then driving her to a vacant hotel room where you won't let her leave the whole night? Asking for a friend. So as we left things in Act 3, Max became frustrated with the popularity of his more depressing Life Sucks episodes, and wanted to move on to bigger and better things. Unfortunately, before we get to those things, we still have 2 more videos. They're 2 that will specifically become more important later, whereas some of the other clips by themselves still hold importance. Meet our newest person. I almost reached out to her, but she's generally stayed silent and wasn't even part of the accusation video against Max. That being said, it's the first woman he addresses, who he dated and made this video about. I would prefer to leave her out of this discussion, aside from noting that this video was in fact about a real person who was in Max's life. Remember, Max is the first person to bring her up, not the other way around.
But that doesn't change that it was still hard. Every day, depression would rape his brain and everything seemed so pointless. But as he was strolling along this path of pain and apathy, he met a little Korean girl. She's kinda cute, he thought.
TLDR, he gets in a relationship with this new girl after Lucy. His first reaction to her is, she's kinda cute.
The next few weeks they go back and forth to one another's house. They would play League, binge watch Game of Thrones, drink boba tea, eat sushi, and do almost everything together. He loved her. She loved him.
So it's great at first when they move in together, but then they get into an unhealthy cycle of breaking up and getting back together again and again.
They think it's time to move in together. Probably not the best idea. Because they begin fighting a lot over stupid shit. Who's gonna pay for what? Who's doing the dishes tonight? Why does one never spend enough time with the other? Max was being used. She was being neglected. Max was getting angry. She was getting depressed. So on and so forth. They go on and on for some time, breaking up and getting back together.
Max neglected her and fought with her, while she, quote-unquote, used him. Max's dog died, and she was there, taking care of him. However, the next day...
And then the night right after, she'd be fucking and blowing someone else.
Obviously, the way Max frames this is cheating, but even within his own description of their turbulent relationship, we can easily raise a few eyebrows. Were they still together at this point? As we'll see later, and as Max literally admits, there was anger and neglect involved, and one could easily call it toxic. Maybe she was trying to get out and this was her only way. Look, I'm not here to give charitability to cheaters, but I'm also pointing out how strange this is for him to publicly air this out and act like some victim when he himself made it seem very two-sided.
So what do you want to do? I know you want to rip their limbs off their soft fleshy bodies. I know you want to shove 10-foot stakes into their anuses and impale them upon the ground you stand. I know you want to shove your hands in their mouth and pull apart their skull from their jaw. I know. I'm not going to look at you like you're crazy.
People in the heat of the moment contemplate some pretty horrific things. But I don't know that they make up specific weird dream scenarios about tearing their ex and their new side piece limb from limb.
This is bad.
Men and women suffering and suiciding for fucking sluts that bounce from cock to cock or cunt to cunt faster than they can say it.
I love you. No! Oh! Visceral discomfort. That is all I have to say on that one.
Are you? Do not let them stop you. They chose you because you are.
The dichotomy of they chose you because you are good, with showing the corpse of the prostitute that Joffrey tortured and killed with a crossbow for fun is a choice.
I wrote the script right after it happened to me and legit wanted nothing more than for her to die. There was a lot I had to take out because I was just so blinded by hatred and anger that I legit sounded like a serial killer, and not even in a slightly joking way, in an actual way. And I was descriptive about it too. You probably would have reported the video. Obviously, they don't deserve that. They're not always evil. They're just stupid and have a lapse in judgment. Their hormones and psychology overcome their higher intellect, their faithfulness. And it's not like I was the perfect boyfriend. I made a ton of mistakes too. I pretty much caused it to happen.
Let's all take a moment of silence to imagine what he said in the first draft, because the final product had me extremely uncomfortable. Cool. Hated that. Moving on.
You want to hear a poem I made?
No. Foreshadowing? Maybe.
If I could fly, I'd soar straight through the stratosphere. If I was super strong, I'd swim across the Pacific. If I had invisibility, I'd sneak on a plane.
Can this guy ever just want powers for a normal reason? Dude, these have to be the most boring things you'd ever want superpowers for. Oh, wait. This was all just a setup to talk more about the girl he misses.
If I was telepathic, I could talk to her. If I could teleport, I'd be there right now. Maybe then I could finally see her again. Where's my time machine when I really need it? Where's my green infinity stone? Because maybe if I go back, I can keep everything from fucking itself up.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
It's times like these when I really want superpowers. Maybe then I'd be special enough.
Max is the OG Sigma. He was acting like he was Ryan Reynolds from Drive way before the memes. I'll bet he's a big fan of Patrick Bateman, too.
This has already happened to me once. I suffered through it.
Whoa! That was real. We'll get into that later, I guess. Even if it's blurred. Like, come on. I know some people who definitely wouldn't benefit from seeing this, especially people in Max's target audience at the time of this video. I get that it's autobiographical, but it's a traumatic thing that you did to other people. In my view, you volunteered your right to show that clip as soon as you posted it in Anthony's Facebook wall. It's no longer your trauma. It's trauma you've unfairly placed onto others. It's not really your right to just do it again to a bunch of other random people.
She popped the pimples in my ear. She'd even wash my feet and in between my toes.
Dude, oh man. I didn't need to or want to hear that. In any universe, please keep that to yourself next time. Please. I think it's just because it's Max. Because thinking about, like, Jesus washing my feet feels cool and based. Yeah, it's just thinking about Max's feet and his ear pimples.
I just slept through half the day and took her to McDonald's. Like a fucking idiot.
Neglect and bad activities.
You know, she and I had this thing where she compared me to a young Robert Downey Jr. We would call her Spider-Man. And it was kind of funny how this all happened when Infinity War came out. And well, spoiler, if you've seen the movie, you know what happens in that scene with Robert Downey Jr. and Spider-Man at the end.
So your pet names for each other are a father-son duo.
I know. As if I'm gonna die. I'm not gonna die a villain. I'm not gonna die a victim of suicide. I'm gonna die a hero. I may not get my time machine or superpowers, but I am gonna get something out of this fucking life.
Why does this sound like a threat? No one gets comfort from this, Max. It's scary. I really do not like this idea of encouraging weird martyrdom.
And to you, Lulu, I will always love you. And I know you'll love me too, even if it's no longer on the surface.
If you know it, why did you feel the need to say it? She's not there to say anything from her side, so why include it? It's so gratuitous, and it's so uncomfortable. I really, really, really do not like this. Especially adding current context. I just do not feel comfortable being in any way associated or involved with him, weirdly airing this out, even retrospectively. I know this is no longer up, yes, it was taken down by him, blah 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 blah. But dude, the fact that it was uploaded in the first place is insane. I mean, come on. This is insane. It makes me, like, so uncomfortable, and I know that I've said that like 12 times, but I don't have anything else to say because it makes me so uncomfortable. I'm not supposed to be viewing this. Manipulative to use your platform like this. Worst of all, it's merely the harbinger for what's to come. So we've pretty much gotten through all of the main Life Sucks canon. So let's see what everyone's thinking with Max's age. 2 years passed since the beginning and end of Life Sucks. Max ended the series when he was 22. To wrap things up, let's start with the full segment of his 2016 interview I clipped bits of earlier.
I was in the United States Army before I was discharged for attempting to commit suicide.
She died on me, and I loved her. Grief, depression, depression, depression. And then I met her, and I loved her. And then she started to ignore me. Then she started to fear me. Then she started to hate me. Then she dropped all contact with me and called the cops on me. Depression, suicide, failure.
So, with all this information out of the way, we now know that there's 3 main women Max has found himself in contention with. Haley, Lucy, and the third relevant ex at the time. We know Max attempted to take his own life in the army because of Haley. Further, we know he made 2 weird personal videos about his exes. For this next segment of the video, we'll be looking away from Max's main channel and glancing at his second channel, Mama Matt. He made anime reviews.
Heaven, I'm in heaven.
Quote-unquote anime reviews with one of his friends. I literally have no idea who this guy is. I don't think he has anything to do with this, and likely just makes fun of the content. Please do not harass him. A lot of these quote-unquote anime reviews cover specifically Lolicon. One could say it's fine because it's being done in comedic review.
How old is she?
15. But he gave the full names for each of the animes he watched, and seemed to make a theme of them being about school children.
Whatever, high school girls only need to know fashion and friends.
Is that true?
I'm not saying that he's encouraging people to enjoy this type of pornography. I'm saying by having a decent following and naming these sorts of things in the title of your video, you are indirectly endorsing it and making more people exposed to it. Rather than commentating over it, I'm just gonna show a few clips to show you that there's a lot to choose from.
We turned dinner into a wild party.
Underage sexual intercourse with a 10-year-old and a 15-year-old.
Well, thanks to me, you now get to go to high school after all.
You got this off the street?
Oh, I'm so happy! Now he won't have to wait a year to try again!
Woo! 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 Woo!
You know what I'm doing tonight, guys? You know what I'm doing tonight? Stabbing people because I'm so angry all the time. It is an anime that is about a sister who rapes her prepubescent brother with her friend.
Call this comedy all you want. I never laughed. And I didn't know a single name of lolly hentai before this. I'm ashamed to know several now. YouTuber Flamenco got shafted for having a lolly-esque hentai comic in his pornographic history, and to this day hasn't stopped dealing with the fallout. Is Max an exception here because he's reviewing them comically? Even though they're far more vile than Boy Soprano, and some of them involve non-consensual sex. Vito made a tweet and is a child predator. What do you think Mama Max would have to say about Mama Mad? As Max was phasing out of Life Sucks, he began to make more videos on different video games. Before he left the series entirely though, he did Life Sucks Mama Max. Partially in response to him reaching 100k, he revealed his full face and allowed other YouTubers to pitch in roasts for him. I've kept a few of them in. Let's close out, and then we can end the video with some laughs at Max's expense. First of all, this has been most of the content of the archive videos. There are a few clips that are being saved for contextual usage in later parts, and everything from here will really just be post-credits. Here's my final verdict on Max. Max targets a vulnerable population through a relatable emotion. In Life Sucks, this was mentally ill and depressed people through sadness. In the present, these are CSA survivors through his anger, using them to make content. Further, he doesn't actually help these people, instead virtue signaling help to them as if it makes a difference. Whether it's telling them to smile more in 2016, or attempting to get his audience to frantically tag Team YouTube for more attention. He bullies those who disagree with him, and often takes disproportionate sections of his videos just to respond to criticisms. He puts jarring comedic moments in what should be serious videos. He has a lot of issues with women, and spends a long period of his life alone. Violence, darkness, alienation, edginess, pretentiousness, condescension, manipulation, taking advantage of platforms, self-victimizing. This is Max. As we'll later see, Max hates non-compliance and will lash out at anyone who does not placate to what he wants.
It's kind of like when a Homo sapien is sitting at their computer feeling empty, not knowing what to do, yet yearning for something to happen. Maybe I should ejaculate. Okay.
Also, he has some issues with pornography, and a strange fixation on younger people. And finally, he has an obsession with views, notoriety, and being remembered. Thank you to everyone who's really helped bring this video to reality. I was fortunate enough to be able to talk to several people involved in the process, and they've been so kind and forthcoming and willing to have a conversation with me, even after everything they've been through. I said it a few times already, but please, do not harass anyone talked about in this video. Even if you're not going to believe the allegations, which I'm not encouraging, don't use that conviction to decry them and to try to get them to hurt themselves. That's insane and awful. I believe Max is making up every one of the allegations, but I'm not going to tell him to hang himself. I hope even from just watching this, you can start to understand that things aren't as black and white on Max's side as he'd like you to believe. So even if you're not certain, send some love to these women. No matter what you'll agree with me on, I think that we can both acknowledge that Anthony and the women have dealt with a lot. If you find it within your heart, take a few minutes to send them a kind message, even if not of holistic support, one of understanding and love. It shocked and disturbed me to see how few were offering their sympathy towards the actual victims of this campaign, while Max continued to be idolized. As if this joke needed a better punchline, let's look at the horrible aggressor.
Obviously, I'm not forcing anyone to do anything, but these people are all very kind and deserve some peace and rest. Even if nobody says anything because of this outro, just saying it out loud feels good. And to all of you who this video is dedicated to, those of you who have survived and are surviving Max, Anthony, Lucy, Haley, Pao, Olivia, and anyone else, feel free to reach out. I've tried to make it as clear as I can. I'm not doing this for views or clicks. I genuinely care about this. If there's any way at all that I can further help you guys, please do not hesitate to let me know. And to the rest of you, thank you so much for making it to this part of the video. If you're here only to learn and be entertained, I recommend sticking to the end. Either way, I really appreciate you making it this far, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, so you don't miss out on the next installment. If I'm able to top 1,000 views on this, it'll make Max's response much more insured, which could include age restrictions and blackballing my channel. So, please, if you liked it, leave a like, leave some nice comments, do your thing. Oh, and Max, I do have one last message for you.
I hope you can get the help that you want, if you want it, and if you don't want it, well, that's too bad, because you're kind of being a waste of humanity.
Bye.
I have to say that the one thing I hate the most about you is your juicy mouth. You look like you are always eating pussy. Oh.
I'm Alex.
Oh everyone, I'm Alex.
Hard to hit 100K when you're some Satan empathizing lunatic who uses the attention of the impressionable to feel alive. Oh, you guys didn't like that one? Let me try another. Max is overly sensitive, boring, and only is polite because he cares what you think of him.
Quentin, you are a beacon on a golden hill, shining down upon the society. Every breath you take means a new baby born. The fact that blood pumps through your veins means that God must be doing something right.
Is this a joke? Do you need money or something?
Are you seriously watching Mama Max? He's so god-awful. Go watch something else better on YouTube.
His disposition is cringy. His content is repetitive. His videos are predictable. His words are hollow. His personality is fake. And his love is a lie.